Welcome to Passion and Profit. If you're a small business owner or solo entrepreneur, this episode is for you. It would not only help you achieve your business goals, but it will also help you enjoy the process. Let's get started.
All the effort you put into creating content on social media, you have to make sure you're getting them on your list because social media could go away any day. We've all heard the horror stories about that. That is rented land. But once you get them on there, you have to actually engage with them too. And I think that's where a lot of people also get tripped up, which we can totally dive into that a little bit as well.
Passion and Profit with your host, Delmith Morales, the podcast for makers and manufacturers. Welcome everyone to Passion and Profit. This is another episode. I'm your host, Delmith. This podcast is created by Inventora, the all-in-one inventory system for makers and manufacturers. We are happy to have you here. Today, we are going to be talking about how to grow your e-commerce email list with Jessica. Jessica is an e-commerce and email marketing strategist for scrappy entrepreneurs. After 20 plus years in retail and owning her own multi-six figures brick and mortar boutique, she now share everything about what she learned the hard way so you don't have to do it. So I love that. Jessica, welcome to our podcast. Please introduce yourself, share a little bit about your background.
Amazing. Thank you so much for having me. Super excited to be here. If we go way back, I used to sleep in my new shoes as a little girl, and I am still just as obsessed with shoes today as I was then. So it was really no surprise I ended up going down the retail apparel path. And it's just always what I've done and what I love. And a few years ago, I was in these entrepreneurial spaces because I just kind of loved being surrounded by small business owners. And I knew I wanted to have another business. I just didn't know what that was going to be. And it was actually when MailChimp and Shopify broke up and you couldn't really use MailChimp anymore. And all of these e-commerce business owners were kind of freaking out and didn't know what to do. And I just started talking to them about my favorite email platform. And then they started reaching out to me for help. And I was like, oh, wait, like not everyone knows how powerful email is, or it's something that they're struggling with. So it was definitely one of those moments where I never in a million years thought I actually had knowledge that I could help other people with. That's really how I got started in e-commerce badassery.
Love that. I enjoy when it's amazing, right? You don't even know like you're good at something and then you figure out and you can tell that, hey,
yeah,
I can make this a business and I can make this something that is helping others. So I think that email lists are something that we are starting to hear more and more of its power. I believe that email list and have subscribers there is more important than having followers on Instagram
100%.
or having followers on other social media. Because you actually have people that want to buy what you are selling.
Mm-hmm.
And I would love to know, because in my experience, I say, yeah, it's important. I know that I have to have it. But once you are there, it's like, okay, but what should I do, right?
Yeah.
How can we get started? So that's why I have you here. I know that a lot of people is like me, that they don't know how to start, how to grow their email list. So we are all ears. We're very excited to have you and listen to what you have for us today.
Yeah, absolutely. And first, I just want to double down on the importance of email and let's have a little bit of a mindset shift around it, because what I find and the reason why people aren't using it is because it feels overwhelming. They don't know what to say. They don't want to be annoying. They don't want to be salesy. And I just want to remind you that these are people who raised their hand and said, I want to hear from you. You have something I'm interested in. Your product is going to solve a problem that I have. And I try and remind business owners, if you are not shouting the magic of your product from the rooftop, right, you're doing a disservice to the person who is looking for the thing that you sell. And I think it helps if we remember that even if our product is seemingly frivolous, like jewelry or apparel, we're not solving problems. No, but you're giving someone confidence who feels really great when they wear your item. So I do find that the first thing is we have to realize that we are bringing value to these other people, not just asking them for their money. And it makes it a lot easier to keep showing up. And the other thing that I find so interesting is I will meet business owners who they spend all of their time creating content for Instagram, right? And they're following every tip and trick and the hashtags and the reels and the this, and they don't love it, but they keep doing it. And they're like, it doesn't really work. I'm like, what if you just took all of that time and you just sent an email? Like, what would happen? 90% of the time, it's going to actually make you money. So there's nothing wrong with social. It has a place in our marketing, but we want to make sure that we're backing that up with email. And that's where getting your social followers onto your email list is like one of the most important things that you can do. And so let's dive into a few ways that we can do that. The most popular one, and the one we hear all the time, is giveaways. I'm not a huge fan of these. That doesn't mean they don't work and that you can't use them in your strategy. You absolutely can, but I do want you to go in with the understanding that a lot of people, they're going to sign up just to get something free. They're not necessarily going to stick around and buy from you. So if you do use this strategy, please just clean your list, 3 to 4 weeks afterwards. If you notice these people or there's a group of them that aren't engaging, unsubscribe them. They're costing you money. They're never going to buy from you. Get rid of them. So there's that way. But what I really like to do is focus on getting people on my list because they want the product that I sell. And my number one way to do that is through product pre-launches or through promotion pre-launches. So what does that look like? If you're releasing a new product, a new collection, maybe it's seasonal, or maybe it's a big sale like a Black Friday. In that case, I want you to build an early access list. Everyone on the list, whether it can be 24 hours, 48 hours, it doesn't necessarily have to be a discount. Early access to a limited quantity of product is enough reason to get them to sign up and get them on this list. So there's a couple of things this does for you. One is it's going to get you new subscribers, people who haven't signed up yet. But two, it's going to re-engage the people who are already on your list and get them to pay attention, right? Over time, people are so distracted. Our business is not the most important thing to our email subscribers and our customers, right? So we have to make sure that we're consistently re-engaging them. And so even if someone is already on your list, I encourage you during this pre-launch process to require them to opt in to the pre-launch group. This way you're getting that little micro commitment from them and they're like, oh yeah, okay, now I'm signed up on this thing. I'm going to get early access. I got to pay attention to what's going on. That is my number one favorite way ever, because they're only going to sign up if they actually want the product that you sell, right? So that one works really, really well. And then the other one is to just ask. Think about all the time you spend on social media. How many times do you let them know that you have a list to sign up for? And I know you feel like you've said it a million times, but you have new people coming into your orbit all the time. People, I think, what's the statistic? Like 3% of your followers actually see any one post that you put out. That's such a small number. If you are asking, they're not seeing it. So I think to us, nobody wants to hear this. We're sick of saying it. We don't want to be annoying. We don't want to be salesy. We don't want to keep asking for stuff, right? But such a small percentage of your people have actually heard you ask. And I was just having a conversation with a student of mine who there's this tool I love called ManyChat that will automate this process for you. But one of my students started using it and she's like, so I posted it and 25 people signed up. I'm like, you got 25 email subscribers from one social media post. And if you didn't ask, they wouldn't have done it. And so many people even responded and said, oh, like I didn't realize, I think because she does secret sales. So I think she used that as the reason to get them on. They're like, oh, I didn't realize you did that, right? She thinks everyone knows, but they don't. But they don't. Yeah. So it's very simple, right? There's nothing fancy about it, but you just have to ask and talk about it all of the time.
Yes, I think it's hard because sometimes we think that people are very aware of what we're doing,
Mm-hmm.
like all the time, 24/7. And to be honest, that is not the thing. It's you need to be very constant as you are on social media, like on Instagram and all of that. You have to do that in your email list as well. And I love what you said, like all of the social media platforms are there to help us,
Mm-hmm.
are there to start growing our list and start having that more engaged community to our business. And all of those strategies that you say, probably giveaways or making them join to another
Mm-hmm.
list on your email, those are amazing. And I think not all of them are going to work for all the
Right.
businesses, but of course, you need to know your audience and probably people, if you already have an email list, you already know who your target audience is. So it's going to be easy for you to say, okay, people like to have like secret sales, for example, like your student.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how you start planning and start implementing new things. And I want to ask you, I know that those are strategies that we can try, but how can we tell that they're not working? How can we tell, like, let's move forward and try another thing?
Yeah, it's such a good question because it it depends on so many variables and there's a balance between giving it enough time to work, right? And knowing when it's time to walk away. And that's going to be a little bit different for every business. But we have to think about, and we talked about this a little bit already, how like you are just not that important to your customer. And one of the things that I talk to people about is your competition in business is not just the competitor that sells a similar product to you. It's literally everything in that person's life. It's their job, their commute, their kids, their sick parent that they're taking care of, the pet that they have to walk every day. It's the dishwasher that just broke and flooded their kitchen. Like all of these things are taking their attention away. So I do want to make sure that you are giving things enough time. And the smaller your audience, the longer it's going to take to work. So if you're on Instagram and you have an engaged audience of 100,000 people, you can probably tell in like 3 attempts whether this particular strategy is going to work for you because you have a really big pool of people. If you have 2,000, you're going to have to try it a little bit longer than that. At a minimum, I like to give any new marketing strategy at least 90 days of consistent implementation and action before I will even consider whether it's working or not, because things just take time. This is especially important with the pre-launch process. If you've never done it before, you haven't trained your customer yet. So the first time, maybe you're going to get a handful of people to sign up. Again, it's going to be a range depending upon how big your audience is. But that doesn't mean it doesn't work. It just means they're not used to that yet. But once you do it 2, 3, 4 times, and what's cool about this is it's rinse and repeat. You just do the same thing the next season, right? You just do it over and over. People will start to understand, okay, every time she launches something, They have limited quantity. I need to be on this list to get early access. I have to pay attention. And they will get into the process. So it is a little bit variable depending upon your business, but when in doubt, at least try it, 3 times or 90 days.
Okay. I think that's perfect. And it makes sense if you have a bigger audience, it's going to be faster for
Yeah.
you. But if you're just starting, it's going to take more time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so smart what you said. Like, if you set up a strategy this year, you can use it for the next year. And so you don't have to, it's positive and also such a easy thing to do because you already know what you have to do next year or next season. You don't have to think everything all over again. So I think that's really good, really useful, and it helps your audience know what you are talking about
Mm-hmm.
and get more related and engage with you.
Yeah. If you look at, even the big corporate retailers, they're just recycling the same things over and over again, right? Like Nordstrom, we know they're going to have an anniversary sale. We know that they're not going to decorate their holiday windows until after Thanksgiving. Victoria's Secret, though I don't really shop there anymore, but they always had, their 5 for 25 panty deal. And then they would do the free tote with X purchase. And if you really watch, they are not reinventing the wheel. Like, you tweak as you learn and you get more data and you do better. But in all of my years working in corporate retail, every year, same thing over and over again, just a little bit better than the last time. It's so much easier that way.
Yeah, I love that. And that's why I love to talk to people that are experts in a topic because I know that they are looking at that thing with such an easy way to see it.
Yeah.
Like, us, the people that don't have experience in it, we try to overthink, and that's why we get so overwhelmed.
Yeah.
But when you hear what you're saying, it makes sense and it's easy.
Yeah.
So okay,
Yeah.
let's move on. Let's keep talking about all the good things that you have.
Yeah, I just one more thing I want to mention about that is because I fall victim to this in my own business too, right? Like, I spent my whole life either working in or running product-based businesses, and now, I do service and education. So while this isn't my first business rodeo, I still get stuck in the shiny object syndrome. Oh, they're doing it, so I have to do it. And can it really be this easy? And sometimes you just get bored with the thing that you're doing. But as long as it works, like, I think we tie too much of our joy and our worth to work and our business, when this is a business to make us money, to pay our mortgage, to put food on the table, and we have to just do what works. Free up your time to go do the things that you love and be more fulfilled by that. Not that, your business shouldn't be fulfilling. It should. Otherwise, it's just like a job. And then you might as well just go punch a clock, right? But I think that while trying new things is super fun and something that you have to do from a marketing perspective, there's also nothing wrong with just sticking to what works and doing it better and better every single time. Yeah.
Absolutely, I completely agree.
It's so hard, though. It's so hard. The other thing, too, with growing your list is it has to be some sort of value exchange, right? We touched on that a little bit in terms of they're signing up for early access. That's a value exchange. They are being entered to win for a giveaway. That is a value exchange. But it doesn't always have to be that. The go-to for e-commerce is obviously a discount. And, there are a lot of different schools of thought on this where some people are afraid, well, if I just give them a discount, from the jump, are they only ever going to shop with discounts? In my experience, no. What will train your customer to wait for a discount is if you're running sales every weekend because you're like, oh, I need a cash injection. How do I get more people to buy, right? And so you run sales all the time. That will train people to wait. But that first one is really, this is someone who doesn't know you yet. There are still I mean, and I have raise your hand if you've ever been scammed by a Facebook ad where you go and buy a product and it never shows up. And then you go to the website and the website doesn't even exist anymore. Like that still happens. And so some people are a little bit weary. So that's just it takes the risk away a little bit for them. And once you get them in that first time, it's way easier to sell to them a second time and a third time. That first purchase is the hardest one to get. So work really hard for that first purchase so that you can build up the lifetime value of that customer. But it also doesn't always have to be a discount. It's going to depend a little bit on your business and your product and what you sell, but I love to use some sort of educational, informational PDF download item to grow email lists. And this is something I've basically stolen from the online informational space, right? Like every service provider, online educator, course creator does this, but it works for product too. So some examples of this, we'll use apparel, right? There was a client that I worked with, and she has her own line, and it's all about slow fashion, and it's really elevated basics and everything. She makes it locally, and it's not inexpensive. And her, what do we want to call it? Her lead magnet, as we say in the info space, was a quiz to find your style and your capsule wardrobe. And she was doing this years ago, and now quizzes are all the rage. And they're another really great way to grow your email list as well. It works really well if you want to do ads, you can run traffic to it. It's a really great call to action on social media. And so I like to think of that quiz as its value for them, especially if you have a really wide product assortment. It can help them find what they're looking for a lot faster. One of the things that I always try to do, my background is in brick and mortar, and I don't think, in-store shopping is ever going to go away because it's an experience that you can't beat. But I'm always asking, how can I recreate the in-store experience on the internet? And one of those ways is through a quiz, right? It's your sales associate. It's kind of guiding them through. So that's a really powerful way to grow your list as well.
Wow, I love that. And to put it on that perspective, like I know that people are looking for experiences, not only a vague email or I'm going shopping, and I think about that and I get excited, I get happy
Yeah.
because that's something that brings, like, it's a whole experience.
Yeah.
So how can you bring that emotions to something as simple as a quiz,
Yeah.
right? Or a I think that's amazing. What other things do you think it's like a good way to do this, like to engage with your email list and start growing?
Yeah. Amazing. So the big thing out of everything we've talked about, the big thing is to ask. Like you have to ask, and you need to ask literally everywhere. So you're going to be talking about it on social all the time. You're going to have options for them to sign up on your website. And one of those ways is a pop-up. I hear from a lot of people that they think pop-ups are annoying, and so they don't want to have one on their website. But at the end of the day, they work. So we need to take our own personal feelings, especially about marketing and the strategies we're trying and the tactics we're implementing. Like, it doesn't matter how you feel about it. The question is, how does your customer feel about it? And does it work to help the bottom line of your business? And it's not to take the humanity out of it, but again, like, doing them a disservice. If it's just sitting in your footer or it's on one little section of your homepage, most people aren't even going to scroll down there. So how else are they supposed to know that you have this list that they can sign up for? So definitely with the pop-up. And then really the trick to all of this, all the effort you put into growing your email list, you have to make sure you actually email them, right? Like all the effort you put into creating content on social media, you have to make sure you're getting them on your list because social media could go away any day. We've all heard the horror stories about that. That is rented land. But once you get them on there, you have to actually engage with them too. And I think that's where a lot of people also get tripped up, which we can totally dive into that a little bit as well.
I love that. And I think social media, for me, it's a good way to people to start to have that first contact with you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's like treated like you're doing FaceTime with a friend or something works, because people are trying to get to know you and your business. And that's a powerful resource that we can start using to get people
Mm-hmm.
into our email list,
Yeah,
right?
it's a great place for
Well,
discoverability, right? People aren't going to like
mhm.
discover your email list, but they will discover you on Instagram. And then you just need to get them off there and deeper into your world.
Yeah, I think that's something that we all miss. Like, we start talking, we do reels, we do TikToks, but we don't put anywhere like, hey, join my email list
Mm-hmm.
here, right?
Yeah.
I think we forget about it. And I think it's something so valuable and can bring our business to be profitable
Yeah,
even more, like,
absolutely.
right? Yeah. So I think that is amazing. I don't know. Do you have anything else? Like, we can keep
Yeah,
talking.
I mean, I'd love to just dive in a little bit into what it looks like once you grow this email list, right? Because
Mhm.
it's not valuable if you don't actually send any emails. So, just a real quick overview. I mean, I could go down a huge rabbit hole on this, but we'll be here all day and we've got limited time. So, the first thing that I just want you guys to remember is your business is not about you. It's about your customer and how you can help them. And so when it comes to creating content for your emails, I always want you to think what is in it for the customer. And that's going to serve you across your whole business, right? The type of content you create for social, the copywriting that you use. You always want to be speaking to how this thing is going to help them. And we have to be consistent. Just like, what's the example you always hear? Brushing your teeth, right? If you didn't do it every day, your teeth would fall out. Like, going to the dentist every 3 to 6 months is not enough. And it's the same thing with email. You have to show up consistently, minimum, I say, once a week. And then as your list grows or the more products you have, as you get better at it, you can start increasing that over time. There are product brands that email every single day, right? And people love it. There are others. The business that I used to work for, we emailed about 4 times per week, and then more if we had a sale or a new product, something launching. So it does depend a little bit, but minimum once a week. And just don't overthink it. What I see happens a lot for a lot of people, especially if their original background is in corporate. It's like they sit down to write an email and all of a sudden, like, all of this corporate proper speak comes out, but it's just a
Mhm.
human on the other side of that email. So just talk to them like you would talk to them in person. There was someone prominent in my life, this was many, many years ago, who made a comment about my lack of vocabulary and how I I mean, I guess he was saying I didn't use enough big words. I don't know. I speak the way I speak, I write the way I speak, and that has gone so far in a positive way for my audience to know, like, trust, relate to me, is because I'm not fancy. You know, I like fancy things. I can be a little bougie, but right, I'm like the girl you want to go hang out with and have a drink or grab lunch, and you understand everything I'm saying. So don't overthink that part. Just speak to them like the human that they are on the other end. And remember that not every email you send has to be a hard sell. It's not always buy my product. Here's my thing. Do you want this? Right. Sometimes it's just adding a little bit of value. Sometimes it's telling stories and letting them see what it would be like if they had your product. It can be your stories, customer stories. Like there's so many ways to sell without being salesy. And the biggest part of that is letting them see what the potential outcome is, because we don't buy products, we buy solutions and outcomes and confidence and status and name the other thing the human condition is looking for in their life, right? Like that's why we buy things. So the more you can speak to that and show up consistently, the more you're going to win.
Yes. We don't need to be professionals to start doing that, right? As simple as, hey, this is how can you use my product. Here are some tips and tricks of how to take care of this X, Y, and Z product that we currently have to last longer. All of those things that are very simple. And I believe that we are going to be having a lot of things that we can include in each email, that it's going to be easy for us to build that type of content for our audience, right? Because probably we're going to start overthinking, but like, okay, what should I write? Or are they gonna like this? Or is it going to be spammy or
Yeah.
like too salesy, like you said? But if you put it like, if you're just talking to someone like in a brunch or in a lunch,
Yeah.
like easy as that, I think it is going to work. And as I think that the more natural we are, the more we're going to engage with people because it's going to be more relatable to them. And I think that's the part that they love.
Yeah. I mean, I get more responses and engagement when I talk about my cat, or, when I just talk about things that are like going on in my life and, a lesson maybe that I learned from it that I can now apply to my business. That always gets the most engagement, the most replies. And those are the things that really resonate with people. And when you're selling physical products, again, they're not buying the product, they're buying the outcome. And so you really just need to speak to that outcome and you'll do A-OK, I promise.
Yeah. And I believe that it makes sense to add a call to action in every email.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's good, or should we just do it some informational and that's it?
No, definitely always a call to action. And even when you're sharing this sort of informational stuff, typically, depending upon what it is, usually I'll say, hey, make it a blog post so that you just give them enough to entice them to click through, because all of the email service providers like the Gmail, the Yahoo, the Hotmail, they are looking for engagement to your emails to say, hey, this person wants to receive emails from this company. And so if you keep sending emails and nobody is opening or clicking them, that's a red flag and you may stop getting your emails delivered. So you always want to have a reason for them to click. And that is way more important than open rates. So many of us spend so much time like, how do I write the perfect subject line? Do they matter? A little bit.
Yeah.
But you know what matters more? The relationship that your subscribers have to you. If they get an email from a company that they love, a founder that they feel like they have a relationship with, it doesn't matter what the subject line says, they're going to open it because they want to hear what you
Yeah.
have to say. So, not that they don't matter at all, but in my experience, they don't matter as much as the interwebs would have you believe.
Wow. Yeah. That I completely agree. If they are liking what you are sending them, they are going for sure open that email. And now that we talk about the open rate and all of that, I think that's going to be my last question. Um what data should we take a look into when we are like having a growing email list?
Yeah, amazing. So, There are some general email benchmarks. They can definitely change a little bit depending upon your industry. And I always will use the example of something super consumable like skincare or coffee versus something you buy once every 5 years, like a mattress or a car, right? That's the engagement of that is going to be very different. But from a really high level, each metric that I'm going to mention, when you're looking at these numbers, it's related to a different step in the process. So I want you to look at them each individually, right? When you're looking at open rate, for instance, that's going to be your subject line, but it's also going to be the segment of people that you sent it to. It's going to be the time of day and the day of the week that you sent it to versus your click rate. That's really about the content in the email and the call to action itself. Like, what did the button say? What are you asking them to do? So when you are looking at these, look at them all individually. But what you should be aiming for. So the open rate, you would always hear 20% open rate. That's what the email service providers were kind of looking for to say, all right, people are interested in this. And then iOS 15 came. So iOS 15 means users that are using the Apple Mail app have the ability to turn off open tracking. And it's only on the Apple Mail app, not if they're using Gmail on their iPhone. That doesn't count. But the percentage of people that use the Apple Mail app is really high. And the way that the technology works is that it actually shows the email as opened, even if it wasn't opened. So your open rates are inflated. So now aim for 30% open rate. Then you have your click rate. Anything over 4% is like amazing. If you're under 1%, that's something to be concerned of. So if you're anywhere between 1 to 4%, typically you're in a good range. And with both of those, your goal is to be better than you were yesterday, right? So if you're not even close to those right now, don't try and hit them tomorrow. Just incrementally improve it over time. And then the other thing that you're going to want to look at is revenue per recipient. So this essentially means if you send 10,000 emails over a month and you made $10,000, right? You have a revenue per recipient of $1. There's no real benchmarks there. Just work on increasing that number, just the value of every recipient that you're sending an email to.
Amazing. I think that's a little bit technical,
Yeah.
but so, you know, but honestly, it's so good to know, like, view those metrics that really matter and focus on the things that we can improve, and knowing the average of the percentage. I think that's also important for us to have an idea how we are doing, how can we improve, or things that we can do different. But I know those metrics are key for us to start growing our email list and also to know how our business is doing, right?
Yeah.
Overall.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, Jessica. We are going to have a second episode with Jessica, which I'm so excited about. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channels. Um, please, Jessica, just let us know how can people find you on social media and how can they contact you.
Amazing. Yeah. So I am eCommerce Badassery in all of the places. That is my website, my podcast on Instagram, where I honestly haven't been active in like 2 months. And not going to lie, it feels great. I will probably start showing up there again at some point, but I'm going to enjoy my holidays a little bit first. But I
Please
do
do.
have a special gift for the audience. So if you go to ecommercebadassery.com/Inventora, am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a special gift there for you. I'm not going to tell you what it is because I'm a marketer and I have to leave a little bit of mystery, but it will be worth your while, I promise.
I love that. That was a surprise. So thank you so much, Jessica. I please go check it out. We're gonna leave all of that information in the description of this episode. There you have my conversation with Jessica. Go check out her business. And Jessica, I'm going to leave also her social media handles in the show notes. I hope this you find this episode helpful. Don't forget to subscribe, give us a follow, and if you like the episode, share it with your friends. Thank you for being here, and until next time. And if you're interested to learn more about Inventora to help you have all your customers' data in just one spot, visit inventora.com.